Drafting is one of my all-time favorite mechanics in gaming. I love the feel of making smarter decisions than your opponent as similar resources are available or get passed around. One of GLHF's favorite drafting games is Sagrada, also published by the same house that made today's game. Floodgate Games, based right here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, also made one of our favorite games of last year, Bosk. Today, we're taking a look at Cosmic Colonies from designer Scott Almes, a tetromino-placing action drafting game set in the far reaches of space. Will this newest title rival our favorites, or will it be relegated to the cold reaches of the black? Let's open the box and find out. Inside our large box, we'll find on top a double-sided player board used for differing player counts. Past that, we have our succinct 8-page rulebook and the 6 player boards, elegantly made out of matte finished plastic. 5 of these are for the main game, and 1 is for when you're playing solo. The game's insert houses all the building tiles here, the resources in this channel, and behind the slot for the score tracker are the game's worker cards with plenty of room for sleeving. Let's set this one up for 3 players, and I'll show you how it works. Depending on your player count, you'll want to use the corresponding side of the board. We're set up for 3 players here, so that means this side. You'll add 1 resource token of each type to the bottom of the board for each player, and then also fill the building tile slots up above. Each player is also going to get an asteroid board, similarly double-sided. We're playing the advanced game, so on the day and night action side. More on that in a bit. Our 3-player game will also have 12 worker cards, chosen randomly here and then dealt out 4 to each player. Each of us then will get an objective card, which will incentivize us to build out specific buildings for additional points. The goal of the game here is to maximize your score by building over terrain on your asteroid. Completely cover all the mountains and you'll earn 15 points. Covering up the rocky terrain will earn you 10 and the crystal caves gets you 5. There's some wiggle room, as leaving only a few spaces of each will net you fewer, but still some points. The winning strategy, though, is to collect a set of all 5 building types. 15 points awaits you for a single set, and it's possible, but difficult, to get 2 full sets in a game. At the end of 8 rounds, you'll add up all the points for sets, covered territory, and finally your personal bonuses for building types you built. How do you do that? I'm so glad you asked. Each of Cosmic Colonies' 8 rounds consists of 2 phases. The first is action, where we'll each choose a card from our hands of 4, placing it face down here on our player boards, first of all on the day side. Once everyone's chosen, we will then all flip our cards face over, and starting with the lowest priority, players will either build or collect, augmented sometimes by the ability of the worker. If you choose to collect, you can choose up to 1 type of resource from the types on the board, up to the quantity listed on the card. If there isn't enough on the board, you can take all of them. Your asteroid can only hold 9 resources though, so if you ever collect your 10th, you'll immediately put resources of your choice back into the supply. If you're building, you'll exchange resources from your asteroid into the supply based on the cost of the building that you want to build listed on the main board. Then you'll take that tile and place it on your asteroid. If this is the first tile, you can put it anywhere on the board. After that, all tiles have to be placed with at least 1 square's edge adjacent to another tile, barring any kind of worker ability. They can't overlap with each other, and you can't overlap to the other side of the board. Repeat this process again for a second worker, this time at nighttime, and then reset the board by adding resources into the bins and moving the round marker. But before you begin the new round, what will happen is one of Cosmic Colonies' neatest mechanics. You will pass your played cards, both of them, to the player on your left. They'll pick them up, and now they have their 2 unplayed cards from the last round and the 2 cards you played to choose from in this round. It's this worker passing drafting mechanic that wakes Cosmic Colonies up to a brighter future. In lower player count games, that means that every game's options are going to be limited by not dealing out all the cards, but that also presents the benefit of each game being a new puzzle to sort out. While Cosmic Colonies presents some cool elements in the building tetrominoes and the variable advanced standard gameplay with differing worker abilities and player boards, ultimately it's the drafting and passing mechanic that propels this title just above a standard game. What works here is that it's a tight, quick game that plays in 30-45 minutes and brings in elements of puzzling, drafting, and resource management. If that sounds like your thing, then by all means, stop this review right now and grab it. Floodgate makes bangers, and if you're already sold, then don't let what I'm about to tell you bring you back to earth. For those of you still on the fence, let me say that this one didn't quite hit the spot for me. It's a fine game, and on paper, it should be something I'd play over and over, but something about the combination of some of the weirder worker interactions, the fact that it's almost impossible to cover all of a given terrain in a single game, how easy it is, especially in a 4-player contest, to collect the set bonus and have that be your main scoring mechanic, all of these pile up to dull the edge of this one for me enough. If someone brought this out at game night, I'd play it, and I'd probably enjoy myself, but I don't think I'd ever volunteer it myself, and that's ultimately the most disappointing thing for me. What is interesting, a little bit, is that some of the worker abilities in the advanced game have different functions for day and night. The problem here is that they're rarely ever interesting mechanics. They either make the abilities better or slightly different based on where you are, and one of them's almost always the right choice, so it's almost always the right idea to play one at day and not at night. But again, I just wanted something more that's not here. Cosmic Colonies ends up being a perfectly fine drafting game that doesn't compel any outstanding moments, but does provide a satisfying puzzle to solve, and with the right crew, could be exactly what your game night needs. Let's go through our checklist before I give you my final thoughts. In the box, rulebook clear and non-gender pronouns. Our scant 8-page rulebook provides crystal clear directions for gameplay along with an advanced rule set and instructions for solo play. While there aren't an abundance of examples, this didn't end up hindering us in our plays, as everything you're going to want to do is pretty straightforward. The rulebook also uses third-person pronouns they and theirs throughout. Iconography clear. While the 4 resources are colorblind friendly, there are still provided icons for each of them to help things along. Additionally, the individual asteroid boards are very clear on which individual squares belong to which terrain type. High marks here. Packaging well done. The game's insert does a good job of keeping everything together, and we've got enough baggies to separate the parts that need to be, well, separate. The card slot has plenty of room for sleeved cards, and while I would have liked a more defined place for the player boards, what's here is just fine. On the table, good representation. Of the game's 20 worker cards, 4 are women, 7 are men, and the remaining 9 are either non-binary or robots. Additionally, one of the characters is in a cool-looking space wheelchair. Component quality, above average. While the worker cards are nothing to write home about, the player boards are made of a nice-feeling plastic and the resources are injection molded. The building tiles are just standard punchboard. Replay value, medium. While the 5 individual goal cards will give you something different to work with in every game, we rarely found that they motivate you to try a totally different strategy. They're simply not worth enough points. Other than that, it's going to come down to which worker cards you get during the game and which ones get passed around. Depending on player count, maybe not all of them will even get used in every game, so that forces some maneuvering. Fun to lose. At the beginning, yes. After you play a few games of this, you'll get a sense of where you stand about mid-game. There's room to come back, even at the end, but the single strategy of aiming to diversify your buildings for the 15-point set score is going to be the driving force in nearly every game. If you can't make that work, you're on the dark side of the moon. I wanted very badly to love Cosmic Colonies, as it has everything I normally like in a game. Quick play time, support for a 5th player, drafting, tetrominoes, even a sci-fi theme. What I ended up feeling was that this is a solid effort from a publisher that normally makes phenomenal offerings. And when it's hard to judge one game by others, when your pedigree is as good as Floodgate's, you are perhaps unfairly held to a higher standard. This box has some cool stuff in it, and it's by no means a bad game. I find myself in the strange position of liking this game, but not loving it. With the right crew, it could be a great addition to your shelf. I'm Nicholas, reminding you to help protect the game population. Always sleeve your cards. Hey everyone, if you liked our video, please hit that sub button and ring that bell for notifications. Check out all of our other offerings at goodluckhighfive.com, and please consider becoming a patron of the channel over at patreon.com/GLHFmagic. It helps us keep making reviews, videos, podcasts, and you can become a member for any dollar amount. We're also always looking for new games to review. You can reach us at glhfmagic@gmail.com. You can follow me, Captain N the Game Master, at CaptainNGM on Twitter and Instagram, and follow the channel at GLHFmagic. Remember, please shop at your local game store whenever possible. Until next time, I'm Nicholas, and good luck. High five.